Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another one of the capacity building sessions that we're setting up for the LIVEMX program. So my name is Grace Paluchek, so I'm one of the coordinators of the LIVEMX program. And today I'm joined by Ken Veerman, our expert that will be helping you later on and hopefully answering all the questions that you have prepared for us. I have my colleague here, Erica Romero from LiveDMA and Patricia from Innova. So what we're going to do is just have the session today starting with a quick recap of the LiveMX program for those of you that maybe haven't attended any of these sessions yet or haven't applied in either of the previous calls. And then we'll dive straight and look into the three main challenges of the live venues. So to be as dynamic as possible, what we'll invite you to do is, after looking at each of the challenges with Ken, we'll invite you to ask any of your questions. So feel free to start putting questions in the chat. If not, I'll invite you all to put your virtual Zoom hand up when we get to those sessions. If in the meantime everybody could have their videos and microphones off, that would be great. And then when we do get to the questions, I'll invite you all to unmute for those sessions. So what I will be doing, just whilst Erica is getting started on the presentation, I'll also set up a quick poll to find out a bit more about you that are here with us today, in which of the challenges is your project looking to address, or you just here to find out more about the LiveMX program. So without further ado, I will pass you over to my colleague, Erica from LiveDMA.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. So as Grace explained, I'm just going to go quickly through the whole program or project of LiveMX so that you understand the basics if you haven't seen them already. And then we'll jump into the challenges, do a deep dive into the three challenges that you can choose, and that we will do with our great expert, Ken. So the LiveMX project, we can call it a project, is something more like a program in a way, as it is distributing funds to medium and small projects to support the live music sector through two main axes. That is the music export and live music venues. That is what you are here for today. It's co-funded by the European Union. It has a duration of 3 years in total, and we will see now in more detail, but it has 3 calls for proposals, and now we are approaching the end of the calls for proposals. As you know, that's why you are here. We have the last call for proposals open now until the 6th of January, I believe. And yeah, so the partners that are carrying out the organization of this program or macro project is Innova Mais, that we have Patricia, as Grace explained before. Patricia is here today with us too. It's a consultancy who are experts in EU projects with more than 25 years of experience. Then we have EMI, that is a non-profit association about music export with 33 national music export offices. And lastly, but not least, there's LiveDMA, that is the European network of live music associations with 20 associations in total in 16 different EU countries. So as you can see, there's big expertise to push this forward. So the two main pillars of the LiveMX program are the funding scheme, which I can imagine is what interests you the most, but there's also the capacity building scheme, and we will see now a bit more in detail each one of them. The funding scheme has a total of 4 million euros to distribute, of which 2/3 have already been distributed. For this, of course, counts the projects also of export and digital circulation. I'll talk about that in a bit more detail now. You can choose, and you have to choose actually, one of the 3 categories. That is 60,000 euros maximum, 40,000 euros maximum, or 20,000 euros maximum when you apply for the project. And yeah, we'll see that in more detail now. And as I said before, this is the last call for proposals. It is open now. So I would really encourage that you go for it, because this is the last opportunity for now, at least. But at least in this LiveMX program, as we know it now, it's the last chance. The next slide, please. please also be mindful of the deadline, as we don't really expect to postpone it after the 6th of January, as there is no time to do so. The capacity building part of LiveMX consists of the information sessions and meet up the experts. That is, you are in one of them now. And you can also consult, we have just one meet the experts of the digital strand that we will, I think it's occurring next week. Oh no, tomorrow, no?
Friday.
Okay,
Friday.
Friday.
Yeah.
Wrong, completely wrong. But anyway, you can still attend that one live. As for the other ones, the information sessions about the LiveMX program in general with a walkthrough through the application form, you can consult online. I'm sorry if you hear my cats, they are fighting, but I hope they will stop that soon. And yeah, then there is another part of the capacity building program that is for the selected applicants. That is basically a networking platform that we are putting together. It's a B2B platform, and there will be a series of activities for the selected applicants of all of the 3 strands. And yeah, that if you are lucky enough to be selected, you will be a part of that part of the capacity building section 2. As for the timeline, well, you can see we're now in the last info session. Then we have the deadline of the 6th of January 2025. And after that, of course, the projects are still taking place. Those selected projects are still occurring, and that will happen until April 2026, I think. And then the whole LiveMX will be finished. Well, you can see now an overview. Wait, sorry. I don't know what to do here. I'm going to give them some distractions. Okay, so the first call of applications, as you can see, there was 25 projects selected of the 3 strands. I don't know if I mentioned that digital basically is the same as live venues and export, in the sense that you have to target. If you go for digital, you're developing a solution either for the challenges of live music venues that is interesting for you here today, or for export, just that the solution that you are developing in your project is of digital nature or a technological solution. So maybe give a thought today, and we can maybe explore in a bit more detail when we talk with Ken and we dive into the challenges. But if you have an idea that is of digital nature for the live music venues, maybe that is the interesting one for you. But let's focus now just in general on the live music venue strand. So for the second call of applications, there was 2 more selected, so a total of 27. Can we go to the next slide, please? And as you can see, it's always quite balanced. So in total, we have the same number of export and live music venues selected. Inside of digital, for both for the first call and the second call, it has been 2 of each. So 2 digital export, 2 digital live venues. So there's also a balance there. And yeah, you can see that there's a balance also in the number of countries represented. I would like to mention here that there is a country cap in each core of projects. That means that no more than 2 from each of these 3 strands, export, live venues, and digital, from one same country will be selected. So I'm from Spain, for example, no more than 2 live music venues Spanish projects can be selected. That is to ensure that there is that the balance between countries continues to be present also in the third and last call. Why should you apply? Good question. Well, I think the first thing is very important and also very unique, as if you have applied for other EU projects or even some other national or regional funds, usually it's a co-funding in which you have to, as an entity, you have to provide some percentage of the funding. In this case, it is 100% covered. It's also a sum lump sum budget. That means that what counts is the activities that have taken place. So even though you will be asked to keep your receipts and your invoices in case there was some problem in the future. You don't, in principle, don't have to present them when you are justifying the project at the end, when you are doing the final reports. And this makes it very easy to prepare the proposal. And if you haven't been to the general info session, I would recommend that you do, because Patricia does a really good walk through the application form. But you will see that the part of the budget is very easy, very straightforward, and you just have to provide general categories and explain them so that they are understandable, and basically lump sum is just easier for everyone. So that is another reason why you should apply. And then you can do a project of up to 12 months. You can also decide to do it slightly shorter, but yeah, that's a maximum of 12 months. Next slide, please. Okay, eligibility. Well, you have to choose one of the three macro strands, like I said before, either live music venues, which I imagine is what interests you if you're here today, or exports, or digital circulation, that refers to the challenges either of live or of exports, just that you are putting into place a solution that is digital to cover these challenges. It's only valid for legal entities. So if you want to apply as a person or as an artist, of course, this is not the place. I'm mentioning the word artist because we do still get some applicants who are artists. They read the challenges and they think it can be interesting for them. Sadly, this is not the program, but you have other programs like Culture Moves Europe that you can check and you can apply for. It's monobeneficiary. That means that you will apply as a single entity, but we do encourage collaboration. So this is a tricky one. And we will, when we see specifically the European added value, I'll explain in a bit more detail. But with monobeneficiary, we mean that you apply as one entity and you will receive if you are selected, you will receive the full funding, and you can decide how to distribute that with your collaborators. So it's not really a partnership, but you can collaborate and you can also pay for your collaborations. You just have to make sure that you are aware that you have the full responsibility of the implementation of the project. You will be signing the contract with the European Commission and the LIVEMX consortium, and you'll be responsible also afterwards for justifying the activities that have been done. And that's what we mean with monobeneficiary. And of course, you have to be in one of the Creative Europe countries. That is not only the European Union. There's a few other countries. So I would encourage you, if you are doubting of if your country is part of this, of the Creative Europe countries, I would encourage you to check in the guidelines that you can find on the LiveMX page, and there you will be able to see if your country is there. We are doing the questions at the end, right, Grace? Okay, so I'll continue. European added value is a tricky one, but let's try to address it. And if not, if you have any questions, then as I just said, we will cover them at the end. So what we mean with European added value is that the project has to have international value. It has to be interesting not only for your country, not only for your own organization. It has to be of interest for other countries. It means that the project has to have the capacity to go beyond national, regional, and local levels. And what does that actually mean when you're designing the project? Well, the results of your project have to be at least transferable or scalable to other countries. You can do this through two main ways. One of them is collaborating during the project implementation, like developing the solutions that you're doing that in collaboration with other international partners. That is a way to ensure direct international or European value. And another way is you could potentially develop a solution alone, but then you have to make sure that what you are developing is transferable, and you have to include a plan to share this with other countries. So that would include a detailed communication and dissemination plan. It would usually include some training activities for other music venues or other venue associations. And yeah, that is the two main ways of doing it. I think what is most important when you want to address this is that you think what countries are going to benefit from this project that I'm designing, either directly or indirectly. Is it only one? Then it doesn't have EU added value. It has to be more than one. And where will the activities take place? Well, ideally, they would take place in more than one country. It's not necessary that you can do communication activities online, but we do really encourage that the activities, at least the dissemination ones, take place in many different countries, or at least, more than one at least. Yeah, so the live music venue priorities. First, I want to stress this because this is a big topic, but this call for proposals of this challenge, well, sorry, of this topic of live venues is addressed to live venues. What do I mean with that? I mean that the solutions that you've developed with your project have to have as main beneficiaries a live venues or live venue associations. This is not a project for artists or for promoters, and I know it can be a bit confusing when you read the challenges, especially the first one, develop artist circulation in Europe. It can be a bit tricky to think, oh, can this be for promoters? Can it be for festivals? Of course, other stakeholders of the music sector can participate and can benefit from this, but it has to be targeted for the benefit of music venues specifically. So once we clarify this, because we still the jury members still encounter quite a few project proposals in the second call as well that were not really for live music venues. They were for other parts of the chain of the live music sector. So I think just keep this in mind. Okay, so now about the challenges, even though we will see them in more detail with Ken. You can target more than one, but we would recommend that you focus really on one. And you will see in the form on the drop-down menu, you can choose more than one, even three of them. But then it becomes a bit difficult to put your idea across and to make sure that your project is actually innovative and it's actually contributing directly to the challenge. So I would recommend that you focus really on one. It will make it much clearer and it will make it take it a step further in comparison to the others that I received. So yeah, all projects independent of the challenge that you choose from these three of live music venues are expected to provide strategies, methodologies, and actions for live music venues. As I said, we would like to see projects that are innovative, that is, I mean, of good quality and also innovative in a way, because there is a lot of repetition of the same ideas, and we can see now with Ken what has already been done, or what could be interesting and what could be innovative, or what is just a repetition of things that already exist. But I would stress that this is to provide new methodologies or new solutions and strategies to ensure that live music venues, especially small and medium venues, are still thriving in our music ecosystem. So the first challenge is to develop artist circulation in Europe. The idea here is to find solutions to stimulate the circulation of artists in a way that small and medium venues can actually take part in, so that they can compensate for the financial risk of booking international artists, especially emerging or small artists that might not have a big following, maybe. So we want to see some. There are different ways to approach this, but you can create like a network or a circuit with other venues in your country. But it's always about venues, and artists will be the indirect beneficiaries from this challenge. The second challenge is to develop ecological solutions. It's quite self-explanatory, but we would like to see projects that create new incentives or strategies to lower the live music venues' carbon footprint, and to do this in a way that is financially viable too, because we have seen a lot that live music venues do have the initiative to be more sustainable, but it's very difficult with the pressing situation at the moment to just stay alive, to find strategies that are actually doable and feasible with basically the money that we have as small venues. So this also, I would like to say that from the first and second round, we only have one project that is directly targeting this challenge selected because we didn't have many that applied to this challenge. So if you have a good idea for this, I would encourage you to go for it because it, first of all, it's really important. And second of all, there is, we don't have many, we only have one at the moment. So we would really love to see some more projects on this challenge. And lastly, the third challenge that you can go for is to develop new audience development strategies. So you can do this through different ways. You can find different ideas, but you can go, for example, for community building initiatives or different audience development programs that you can design and share with other music venues, or just basically projects that attract new audience segments. And yeah, just in general, if you go for the live music topic, we would like to see also that there is always either one of the two following aspects. One, that there is a reinforcement of the human resources or their working conditions. This can be just to include some adapted training programs for people working in the music venues, and or to provide peer learning and capacity building among the venues themselves. So as I said before, workshops, trainings, but just make sure that you include always a strong dissemination program. This means like a communication of the results of your project. There is a section for it inside of the proposal. It is important to do like to put a good thought into this and design a nice dissemination and communication program. And that is it for myself, because I'm going to jump to our great expert, Ken Fehrman. I don't know if the questions about the first section of this session, will be taking these
Yeah.
now or
If you would,
later.
Erica, what I'll do is just like do a quick summary of the more generic questions, and then specific ones we'll take as we go through the challenges. Because I know lots of you were asking, will this recording be available? When is the info session? So the info session is gone, but you will have the recording available, as Patricia and myself put in the chat. You already have on the website several different resources for those of you that are interested in applying. You have the video that Patricia sent, which walks through the actual application form. Then you have the information session from the second call, shortly this call as well, so you can really understand that, work through whether your project is viable. You'll also have the different recordings of the Meet the Expert sessions from last time. So you can already see this same video with Ken. I'm sure we're going to have some extra content. So I think it's really good to watch both sessions, because I think you can get different input based on the questions that you're all bringing to the table. So I just wanted to give you a quick reminder on that. And I think there was a really important question again that was asked, that tends to be asked every time round. Is it valuable for festivals? Is it valid for artists setting up tours? And I think this is just something it'd be good for us to repeat on before going in depth into each of the challenges. So I don't know if you want to take this, Erica, on that it is, this specific strand is focused on live venues and associations.
Yeah, basically, short question, no, it's not for festivals. Can you apply if you are not a live music venue? Yes, you can apply without being a live music venue or live music association, though it's not ideal. You can, but the project must develop a solution that is directly for live music venues. So if you are, for example, a technology provider that is not, of course, a live music venue, but in your project you are developing an instrument that is to be used by live music venues. So there you can see the same way. If you are a festival, technically you can apply if your project is about developing a solution for music venues. So some kind of collaboration tool for music venues, or so that is the main difference. The solution that you are developing has to be directly targeting live music venues. So not artists or anyone else. I don't know if that is clear, or should I?
Yeah, no, I think that's great, Erica. And then just another tip before we move on for everybody that's in this session. Actually, on our website, under the section called First Round, First Call Selected Projects, you can see the abstracts of from the 25 selected projects from that first call already. So you can deep dive to see what sort of projects are getting those points to get them through to this stage. Also, another disclaimer that none of the members of the consortium are the jury on these projects. So we do have an external jury that is evaluating all these proposals. So, if you have questions today, we can share best practice opinions, but we're not going to be judging or giving a concrete feedback on a specific project because we have an external jury that is taking care of that. So sorry for the protocol heavy questions, but I think maybe it may anticipate some questions that could come up further on. So I think it'd be a good time to hand over to Ken now, don't you think? Looking forward to hearing and addressing challenge by challenge. So as we said, feel free to drop questions specific to that challenge in the chat. In the poll, in the end, I couldn't get it working, so that's why you haven't seen the poll, but it'd be great just to have some of your feedback in the chat. So I'll hand it over now to you, Ken.
Thank you. Thank you. Just a quick recap of where we are. There are 3 strands. You've landed in the strand live venues, live music venues. So we're only going to talk about live music venues. And within this area of live music venues, LIVEMX is focusing on 3 challenges that we're going to address. And I'm going to go through these challenges. The best way or the only way this works is when you interact with us. So I'm going to present some ideas and some statements about these challenges. And I would invite you to just join in and give an example. If you have a question, if you're working on something, you can share it with us. And if not, then Erica will jump in with an example from one of the previous applications. So we can get a really hands-on approach and really get the feel of what these challenges are about. On the next slide is the title of the first challenge, which is to develop artist circulation in Europe. This is an important question. It doesn't have to be in the whole of Europe. It can be in parts of Europe, obviously. You don't have to circulate every artist throughout the entire European continent. But it is about creating circulation. And so I think in the next slide is a first statement or a first thought that I'd like to share with you. That is that we seem to know everything about very obscure American or British bands and releases. But for some reason, we're not able to name 3 bands from a neighboring country. So there's a heavy focus on an existing Anglo-Saxon market, but there are so many bands from other European countries that don't have this exposure yet. So the whole question of LIVEMX is how can we build stronger live music venues? So what ideas can we find to do this? And one of the challenges is this one. How do we make it more feasible and more interesting for music venues to present local artists from Europe, and having them circulate through Europe? Is anybody working on a project like that, and somebody who wants to share something about that? You can raise your hand. You can just say hi if you.
Yes. Hi.
Yeah. Hi. Till.
Hi, my name is Till. We're with TabGig, and we basically have built a solution where you can have artists perform in live venues without having to be there. This is not a regular stream as we all know it. It's an interactive, life-size festival sound plug-and-play solution, and it would help venues to have bands perform who would regularly not be able to perform, because as we all know, the cost has dramatically increased and the kind of mid-sector of bands is not able to tour anymore in many areas. So, for example, we're working with artists who can't physically be there, like Ukrainian artists who are regularly now performing through our tool on festivals and conferences in Europe.
Excellent. So the first thing you could pitch it as part of the live venues strand, but there is a specific one for digital circulation. And I'm just going to hand it over to either Erica or Grace to see if I'm getting it right. But there is one that is more suited to your question than this one.
Yeah, I think that may be a good session for you to join on Friday, because it's really that combination of the digital strand, but serving the live venues problems. And so that's how it actually works with the whole strand related to digital circulation. You can't just apply for a digital circulation engagement project. It needs to be combined with live venues or with music export. So I really invite you to come along to the session on Friday. You can register for that on the website at 11. And one of the selected digital projects called from Music Tech France will be our expert for that session, and she'll be answering those questions on combining the digital challenges with the live venues, which I think may be more relevant for your specific project, Till.
Okay, thank you. I mean, it has so many angles. It also saves CO2, right? It helps the venues to put more high value program on stage for less cost. Yeah. So all members of the ecosystem benefit. So it's tough to see what is the best angle into coming into the LIVEMX program.
If you have multiple angles, my advice is always to pick one and to have a good story. So what problem are you solving? You can address that in different ways, but if you have a good way in, that's always the best way. If you say we do a lot of things for a lot of people, it doesn't really have a ring to it, and you really can't just like, it's not a strong story. If you say this is a problem, this is how we solve it, I think you know this, you know how to do this. If I were to take your example and look at the challenge we're working on right now, then my question would be, it still doesn't solve, the fact that all of these bands that you can present are unknown and hard to market and hard to promote. So maybe you do something else. You provide a service where bands can perform without having to travel. So it's more for digital circulation. It's a really good, or for sustainability and ecology, it could be one of those as well. You can pick your battle, but really craft your story in such a way that when the jury reads it, they say, oh, this really helps us with the challenge that we have before us, and not like a mixed bag of opportunities. Because I think, in my experience, you rarely have an application where the jury says, this is bad, we're not going to fund it. Usually what happens is people say, we've got too many good ideas, and this one's technically not for us, so we're going to move it over to somebody else, and you kind of fall in between two things. So make your story strong enough and apply it to, I think, digital circulation here.
Yeah, just to sort of reinforce what Ken was saying, there is an extra tip, try not to embark on so many things. And I think some people sometimes have an idea, but if you really analyze it, it doesn't address the challenge in hand. So people are trying to fit the wrong piece of the jigsaw into the puzzle, just because, they think that this solves that problem. So I do invite everybody to really consider, in what ways is what I'm proposing answering this question and providing a solution. So,
okay, unless somebody else wants to jump in, we'll jump to the second statement that is related to this first challenge of circulation, which is that perhaps it's not about showcasing individual bands. We always go for promoting bands, and so tricks to make bands more famous. But it could also be about building networks. The reason these American and British bands are so popular and well known is because they've got a very good distribution network where there's media, there's a story behind these bands, and it's very easy to know and to keep in touch. So maybe the solutions we're looking for could also be solutions that have to do with building networks where it becomes easier to exchange bands. We don't want projects where we fund the tour of one band, and then afterwards we have to fund the next tour and the next one and the next one. We want things that actually create a system, create an ecosystem where bands can tour. So maybe it's also about building networks with neighboring countries. Maybe it's about building networks with genres across countries. This could also be an option. Is anybody working on a project like that?
I can give an example of one of the selected projects of the second call, but there was also a similar one in the first call in Italy. In the second call, we got one from Denmark that is called Northern. And the objective of this project is to formalize a network of music venues across Northern European countries. So the idea is to support artist tours by supporting different methodologies for the music venues to collaborate. and the results will be an innovative music promotion program, sustainability practices for the different participating venues, and support for experimental music. But the idea is that they will create also a platform. I think they'll be using Trello, I remember from what I read, to put in contact these venues that were from different Nordic countries. So it goes beyond Denmark. I believe that includes a couple of other Nordic countries, and it's going to put in contact different venues, basically creating a network with some instruments that this network can use, and then they can make it easier to organize touring for emerging artists between these venues in the north of Europe. That is an example of this type of project.
Cool, and it's also a good example of that European added value by not doing it just for Denmark, but making sure that it's about touring the neighboring countries. That is in itself European added value. But also you can use the key learnings from that project and apply it to other areas in Europe where neighboring countries can work together and do something similar. So this is a very good example of promoting or selling your project in a way that it really covers the European added value.
Yeah, I'm going to use the opportunity to answer a question that there was in the chat that I just read about a dissemination, an example of a dissemination activity that would be interesting. So, for example, if you were to develop this project of the network of different venues, you could create a training program or a methodology and then do some sessions online so that other music venue associations from other countries can join and follow your example. And like Ken was saying, following the learnings from your project. So, for example, if I were to develop a network of venues, a strategy to connect venues between Portugal and Spain, then a communication activity or dissemination activity that would be interesting for adding more EU value would be to afterwards do a series of sessions online so that associations in France and associations in Estonia can also follow our guidelines and our steps that we followed and can learn from our project directly. That would be an example. You can also, of course, always use some publications and make sure that they are widely spread. You can also go to showcase conferences, so showcase festivals and conferences and present your work. Always that the results are easily accessible for venues and venue associations in other countries. That is the main idea from that.
Yes. And I think I would invite you to look at LIVEMX as an invitation to, in your own way, build the future of the European live music industry. So sharing your knowledge, sharing what you've learned with the rest of the industry is key. The more you share it, the more valuable this project becomes, and the more likely it is that you will get your funding. If it's just something for you and your venue, and we'll come back to this time and again, if it's very much like an individual project, it's not really going to help anybody. If it's going to be, if we're going to invent the future, then we have to do it together. So sharing your knowledge, and that's what dissemination is about, is extremely important here. Okay, I think we can safely jump to the second challenge, which is the ecological solutions adapted to the live music sector. This is ecology, this is sustainability. This is a struggle that we've been working on for a very long time, but LIVEMX invites you to come up with new ideas. I think the first statement that I would like to drop on you guys is that it's about discovering the future. So this is about experiments, and experiments should deliver key learnings, not predictable outcomes. The classic example here is LIVEMX is not going to fund solar panels on the roof of your music venue because that is not an experiment. You know what's going to happen. It's going to save electricity. It's going to create a more sustainable form of electricity. It's a predictable outcome. What we want here is experiments. We want to learn things. And so if you set up an experiment, either you learn that the thing you wanted to test actually works, or it doesn't work, or you've learned something completely different from this experiment. But all of these things are worth sharing. So if you want to do something on ecology, why not set it up as an experiment? We want to learn something. Is anybody working on a project like this? No. Traditionally, this is one where where there's not a lot of questions. Somebody says yes in the chat, but I can't see more than the word yes. Andrada, so maybe if you want to switch on your microphone, unless the yes was not related to my question. I'm very confused right now.
Yeah, feel free to jump on and ask your question, Andrada.
Hi. Is it okay with my microphone?
Yes. We can hear you.
Yes.
We could hear you, and now you've frozen. So maybe we come back to you in a second when the internet is circulating in the part of Europe where you are.
Yeah, we've lost you there.
This opportunity.
Okay, welcome back. We've missed
You're back.
part of your presentation, Andrada. So if you can repeat it, then we can answer your question.
Yes. So I reply with yes, because we are very interested in going on this direction, and we are now experimenting with ideas that we could apply in this project. So I'm here today because it was not very clear to me in which direction we can go with ecological wise. So if it's like an experiment, that would be a good fit for our ideas.
Yes. Say that you want to experiment with lowering the carbon footprint of your organization by doing something like making touring lighter, for example, something like that. Then that's a classic example.
Can I say what we were thinking about?
Yeah.
So, for example, we were thinking to have some merch for the shows that would be on these venues, and that the audience can buy that merch, and it would be a donation to ecological associations like Greenpeace, or we found many such organizations. So would that be possible? It's a idea that we can apply.
Well, yeah, but it needs some tweaking and some working, I guess, before you can turn it into an application. Because firstly, nothing is stopping you from just selling merchandise right now and giving the money to an ecological organization. You don't need to develop anything. That's an idea that's great. So you could do it already, so you don't need the funding for LIVEMX. I think if you want to get it funded, then there has to be something that you need time and development to create something. So it has to be more than that. And the second thing is, if it's just one local venue doing this, there is not really the European added value. So maybe there is something to find in collaborating with venues across Europe.
Yes, so our project would involve more than one, at least 3, or we hope really 4 countries in Europe.
Okay.
And I know we can make merch at this moment, but people need an idea to want to buy that merch. You know, that is the most difficult, the challenging part of anything, to convince them in a way, and bringing them to concerts, and proposing this. You know, you can have a good show, and also you can do that. So you would have the strings to make them commit.
Yes. So I think the project for LIVEMX would be that part. How can we get venues to work together on this? How can we promote this story so people know that it exists? Can we what ways of promotion are we going to use? You can do an experiment there, but then it also has to it really has to deliver key learnings, new ideas that we can take away in other parts of Europe. You have your European added value with the different countries you're working with, but for me the challenge that it has not been met right now is, how does this make the venue stronger? Because basically it's a fundraising project, if I understand it correctly.
Yes.
recommendations. So if you can have a way of also like creating new audiences for venues, creating less costs for these venues, like making something that is sustainable for the venues as well. I think that's going to be important because the main beneficiary of this thing is we need stronger music venues, and
Yes.
this is what the funding is for. So you have to like rewrite, I think, your project so it meets these criteria, and then you've got something that you can work with.
Okay. And I have another question about the venues. They have to be mentioned from the start, the venues that we are selecting for this project. So when we apply, when you submit the application, everything has to be clear regarding the venues that we are going to use.
I'm just going to look at either Grace or Erica for the technical part of it. Can you technically get away with not mentioning the venues? But the other thing is, of course, if you have the venues already, if you have them and you have some kind of a collaboration with them, that makes the story a lot stronger than just saying we're going to do it with some venues that we're looking for. So I would advise you to get these collaborations in writing, to have a plan together. So that makes
Yes.
a lot stronger than just saying if we get the money, we'll just shop around for some partners, because that makes the story a lot weaker when it gets on the table with the jury. But I don't know about the technical part of it. Do you have to have all of the partners written down when applying?
Exactly, that's what I'm interested in, because we want to have all the partners in due time, but sometimes maybe we cannot find the right partner in one country before the submission date. And
Yes.
I just want to know if we can still develop over time.
Yeah, I would just jump in and completely agree with what Ken has said. Technically, you don't have, it's not mandatory that you have all of the names of all of your collaborators, but your story is going to be much stronger the more that you have. So yes, do continue with your application, even if you have some names that you are doubting on, and include indicators of, like, for example, we will be working with 5 music venues in 3 different countries. I think that would be a minimum to say the number and the location, and then the more specific you can get, if you can provide names, it's going to be the story is going to be stronger, like Ken said, and you will just get more points for it because it's going to be clear that you have designed it already in a lot of detail, and it's going to be easy for you to implement. So it's not going to raise doubts of whether you do have these connections or not, or is it going to be a problem afterwards when you implement it. But it's not obligatory, so you can present your idea with the design of the idea without having all of the names confirmed.
But yeah, just to
Thank
jump
you.
on Erica's reply to you there, because we had the same question in the music export session, and just to reinforce, the more complete your proposal, the better your chances of getting, more points in the ranking system. So, just be aware. Obviously, we know that things may change, with a partner. If a project is selected and further down the line things happen, we are aware. But I think the better that you can present in more detail your project to show that you're the right person to be doing this project and you have the right skills to, definitely the better on there.
Okay, thank you. Did that
Thank
answer
you.
your question, Andrada?
Yes, I still have one more little issue. So how I understand that rising audiences for these venues is the key factor for this trend. My problem is, do we have to convince the venue that this is good for them, or I'm not sure how to put it in writings. Sometimes it was very difficult to find a venue for an event. That's what I'm telling. And how can we convince the venue to participate? I mean, that's the challenging part that I'm trying to figure out.
Yes, but I think the answer lies in the call for LIVEMX, which is it has to be, the beneficiary has to be the live music venue. So it means this has to be good for live music venues, so that the convincing part should be easy as soon as your project is good. If you don't find music venues who are interested, that means you have to workshop your idea because it really has to benefit these music venues. So it's not about setting up funding events, funding festivals that go on tour. It really is about strengthening the functioning and the working of music venues. So that should be the easy part. If it's not, that means that you have to like really rethink your story in a way that music venues can benefit. And do you have a collaboration with a music venue, or are you external to music venues?
We have a good collaboration here in Romania, but of course we want to find music venues abroad.
Yeah.
And we have the musicians that can help us with that, so from other countries. But I'm not sure how easy or hard it will be to find partners in music venues.
Yeah. So to not let this take up more time than we've given, I think the real question here is what is in it for the music venues, and maybe can you find a music venue who is going to apply for this, or are you going to apply for it? It would be a lot stronger if it's a music venue applying and saying we want to do something with ecology and merchandising than an external player trying to convince music venues. So I think you have to workshop the idea, make sure that it kind of fits the narrative of the live music application. Thank you so much for these interesting topics.
There's quite an interesting question still on this topic in the chat. So it's from Snezhana. So I don't know if you want to read it or you want to unmute maybe Snezhana and ask the question. If not, we can just take it from here. Okay, maybe not. Here we are. Great.
I don't want to take more time, but yeah, the idea is this is a quite old festival in Austria. The idea is that it redevelops itself each year, creating a new scenography out of the materials which are reused each time with the big group of students and workshop leaders, and it's about scenographies and outdoor architecture. And so we're interested, first, we are not a permanent venue, but we were interested if it could be a topic which could be also shared with other initiatives in a framework of music venues. And yes, the particular question is about light setups and scenographies. If we will create them in innovative way, using custom lights, for example, artistic light setups, and then reconfigure it each year. Can this approach be relevant for the funding, because it touches more questions about architecture or visual part of the music venue, and not the band management thing or musical issues? Thank you.
Okay, that's a very good question, and I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff in your question. Obviously, it needs to be reworked into something that fits the LIVEMX narrative. But the question of can we come up with some kind of toolbox or information or training or capacity building or whatever for music venues to reuse their material, to build new stages, to new scenographies, to use more ecological ways of lighting and all of that. There is a lot of interesting stuff in there. Also bringing in expertise from architects, but also collaborations with students is also something that could be scaled and transferred to other countries. So I don't think that it's easy to find the funding to do it in one venue, because then it's just like there's no European added value. But a training program to rethink your stages, scenography, together with architects and students, there's a lot of meat and bones in that one. So I think you should really look into that. And I think I see that Erica is nodding enthusiastically, but this is something that if this helps music venues to create a better presentation by reusing materials and making it more ecological and doing it together with students, there's a lot of things that you have going for that project. So it's really about like writing the good application.
Oh, thank you.
And this is clearly what LiveMX is for, right? We want to have new ideas, new ways of working with live music venues, so they become better at the end. And so this one is like if you fund this project, and it starts with 4 venues really training their staff and their technical crew to rethink the light plan and to rethink things in terms of ecology, but also in terms of architecture and artistry. That is a very cool start, and you can disseminate that again. What have we learned from it? Is it a toolbox? This could be like a manual that you can, or like a training program that you could set up in the future. So really, there's a lot of it that is interesting to have. And also, if it's a complete flop at the end, if it just doesn't work at all, you could have learned, why doesn't it work? What is the problem here? Why have we failed? And that's also a key learning. So experiments don't have to be successful to be good. You can also learn from your mistakes. So even if it turns out that it's too expensive, or it's really hard to do this, or it's the external touring manager always decides what the light plan is and there's a conflict there, whatever you do, these learnings can also be very interesting. So it doesn't have to be a guaranteed success if it's an experiment, but it's a question of these questions that start with how can we are really good questions for this part. How can we rethink this? How can we do this differently? If you have a good experiment for that, it's really good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, this is very inspiring. And yeah, this actually works already. So we will apply for this. Thank you.
Cool. Shall we jump to this? Is there a second? Let's see. Is there a second statement for the third? Yeah. Okay. There is one. One thing that we want to also challenge you with is most of the projects around ecology are based on harm reduction. Try not to pollute too much. Try not to waste too much material. Try not to do this or that. But what if we could turn it upside down and turn venues into forces for good? How can we also promote things that are better for society? So the example we just had, Snezana's example, was really good in that, because it also strengthens collaborations with local students and architects. And so it becomes like something that creates something new in the community. So something that wasn't there before. So it's about creating more things and not just doing less of the bad stuff. Is anybody inspired by this or is thinking of doing something like that?
I will say that in the second call, there was a project selected called EcoTuner in the Western Ukraine. And that included the development of a training program on ecological solutions for music venues, but it also included a part on educational and awareness raising activities that stems from the venues. So I think that is in part what we are referring to here. Music is a platform to send messages to people. It's I think probably the cultural format that is most consumed by society. So if you have an idea of how we can use live music venues as a way to promote ecological ways of living amongst society and amongst the local communities, for example, that can also be another way of thinking about this specific challenge that, as Ken said, would be like flipping the coin. You can do both, of course. You can be sustainable yourself and also send the sustainable message. That is what this selected project was proposing to do in the Ukraine.
Okay, I'm looking at our time, and I really want to jump to the third challenge. Oh, thank you. Which is the development of new audience strategies. So it's not just about artist circulation. It's not just about ecology. It's also about new audiences. And I think the first one that I want to hit you with is this statement: that booking great bands in venues is only half the work. The other half is making sure that there's an audience there. And so when you're working with completely famous bands, that it's really easy to get the audience because they're famous. But how do you create an ecosystem where unknown bands can also have 30 people watching 40 guaranteed. This ties in with the first one as well, with circulation, of course. Having artist circulation is one thing, but if they circulate Europe and they play for empty halls, there's no fun in that either, and it's not sustainable. So how can we build new audiences in music venues, not just for one music venue, but something that is teachable, something that is scalable to other venues? Anybody's working on something like that? Sarah.
Hi, good morning. First of all, I'm going to give you a bit of a context. I'm here because I'm representing a venue association in Lisbon. We are in a very specific phase of the project where we might relocate for a new venue, a bigger one. We don't know when. It might not be during the duration of this project. However, I consider important to kickstart the project anyway. And the idea would be to create a capacitation program that not only allows artists and bands to circulate between European Union countries, but also would be a capacitation program that would provide guidelines to music venue professionals on how to operate an educational program that would help not only artists, but also the venues, developing tools, developing even like ways of operating or application processes to get funding. So with more like a test in our venue, and to create a list of guidelines that could be scalable to other live music venues. On a long-term perspective, the idea would be to focus also on the development of the venue itself, considering that we will change location. So that would be working with local architects to develop specific solutions for the live music venue. I don't think this will happen before 2026, unfortunately. So, and this is a real case. So I have to talk about real, it's not ideas, like it's like timeline conditions, ideas. And therefore I would like to ask if you think it would be worth to apply now without the ecological part of the project, and just respond to the artist circulation and the music export part, if it's even doable that we respond to the both at the same time, or if we should focus on one of them. I would like to hear your insight here. Thank you so much.
I think there's the way you present your project right now is very broad, and it covers so many bases. I think it's really worth narrowing it down and really answering the question, what is the problem you're trying to solve here? If you're going to do training for music venues across Europe, training on what specific topic? Because if it's everything, then it becomes really hard to do. Also, the fact that you don't have a venue right now is not that relevant to this story, because it's about all of the European live music venues, not your venue just in itself. So I would kind of like get that out of the way and then really see what is the problem we're trying to solve here. What is the knowledge that is not present in live music venues, and what is the question there? And it's another one is what are things that we are learning right now that we want to share with other music venues? So really narrow it down to a topic, because otherwise it becomes a bit too much, and then you put the bar really high, and then the chances of failure are really big, and people saying we don't really get what the point is. As soon as you make it very specific, this is a topic that we know something about and we want to work on with other venues, then it becomes a really interesting application for LIVEMX.
And just to jump on what Ken was saying there, to really reinforce the argument that you have to decide what camp you're choosing. You know, you're either doing music export or you're doing live venues, because even actually on the application form, you can only choose one. And then once you have chosen that specific area, you'll have to also declare what like what problem are you addressing, what challenge are you addressing. So you've really got to be specific and decide what you want to focus on. It was a bit similar to the missing jigsaw piece I mentioned earlier on. You know, you can't come with your random piece. It has to fit as part of this LiveMX puzzle. And so focus on and really look at what you're trying to address here.
Okay, thank you so much for your feedback. I just wanted to, maybe I passed on the wrong idea. We already have a venue for 5 years. The venue exists.
Yeah.
It's one of the major venue associations in Portugal. We're just changing location soon, so I thought it would be. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's jump to the last statement that is related to audience development, which is the next slide, which is that mission-driven work, and that's what you're doing. You're trying to make the world a better place. Mission-driven work is not just about informing people, but it's about convincing people. It is really about seducing people to do something that they don't know that they should be doing. It's about challenging people's ideas of what a music venue is and that it's not for them. So really creating a movement is about finding followers and convincing people to join in. So audience development could also be this. It could not just be marketing to existing audiences, but it could also be convincing people who don't think that music is for them to see that they can join in, or set up things with people who are not customers right now and develop something with these audiences. So audience development could also be, and is usually about finding new audiences. Is anybody working on a plan like this?
Yes, we are, but I don't know how to put on my hand.
Simone, we can barely hear you. So maybe if you can speak up, or there's something with the microphone.
Better now?
It's better, yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm not really sure if our project falls into the live venues part, but we are planning a project that is working on inclusion for people with physical disabilities, and we are thinking of doing that in the nightlife scene, so clubs and also festivals, mainly DJs, but sometimes also live performances. And we're thinking of some kind of guerrilla style dance performance to kind of surprise the audiences. And these performers are people with disabilities, and it's about the idea of staring at people with disabilities and about the taboos around being a person with disabilities, but also a person who goes out, also a person who can be sexy and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not quite sure if it falls into the live venues part. We have, I think, 5 or 6 clubs and festivals already that are interested. But yeah, it's a performance thing, so I'm not quite sure.
So I think it sounds like a very cool plan, but as soon as the performance is over, there is nothing left in the venue. So for this to be something that could be interesting for LiveMX, for this part, you'd have to find a way of sharing the knowledge and changing the way these venues work. So if it's the performance in itself is interesting, but it's not a teachable action for music venues. But if you leave these music venues with more capacity to accommodate people with challenges, physical challenges, then it becomes interesting. So maybe if you want to jump into this, one of the ways of saying we want to have stronger music venues is we want to have music venues that are accessible to people who do not have access right now to these venues. So I think there is something in there, but I worry that you have to like really change your project to make it fit into this subsidy plan. So you have to like really think if that is worth it for you, because it sounds like it's a good project. It's also a valuable project that can be subsidized, I think, but not in this case, in the framework that we're looking for right now, unless you change a lot of the context. So it's always like weighing the options and saying, is it worth like really redrawing it as we're going to teach music venues how to welcome people in a wheelchair or whatever, that kind of project? Is that what you want to do or not? That's something that you really have to decide before.
Okay, so you'd say if it's more about accessibility, like very pragmatic, hands-on things venues can change or can work on, that might work. But I think we're more on the like positive representation kind of side.
So
and
then
people feeling included, and that's maybe that's more.
Yes, I think that's where the challenge lies. The beneficiary of your project is people getting a better representation, and the beneficiary of this project should be the music venue. So there's a I think you'd have to like really change it around, and maybe it's not worth your while then, because you really want to. Sounds like you're really onto something that is really valuable, and that you would have to like really rewrite to get it into the LIVEMX frame.
Okay, thank you very
If
much.
I may, maybe just as an idea, if you frame it, because it is probably true that that you are going to create some kind of methodology with diverse programming of people, of diverse people, is that going to result in audience development? Because if you have more inclusive programming, that is going to attract more inclusive and diverse audiences. If you did it in that way, it would address the audience development challenge, but it would have to be like Ken was saying, that not only that you test it out in the venues that you select, but that you also provide some kind of guidelines or a toolbox or something at the end that can be used by other venues that didn't participate, because LiveMX doesn't fund one-time events. It funds solutions, methodologies, strategies. So if you convert it into a strategy of audience development that is more diverse and inclusive audiences, then that could be an option.
Was that an answer to your question, Simon?
Yeah, I'm busy making notes, but thank you very much.
Okay.
It's very helpful.
Awkward silence. I
A
wasn't
quick
sure.
question here in the chat, but just directly to me from Carla, saying, do the venues have to be relocated, i.e. in different European countries, or can they only be in one country? So I don't know if you want to jump on there, Carla.
Yeah. Let me address it. Theoretically, it's very possible that you do something in one country, and that it's an experiment, or it's a project that will teach us things that we can scale to the rest of Europe or other parts of Europe. If so, it's good, it's perfect. There's also you can do things with other countries, and that it's always better, it's always nicer, it's always more informative. It's better to learn from a broader set of countries. But if you do something that you say, we're trying to develop something in, say, Italy, and after we've experimented with it, we're going to share these insights and we're going to scale it to other countries. That's European added value right there. So I think you can use that as well. It doesn't have to be. And so please don't make this project about we're going to do something and then we're just going to invite some other country to do also, to also do something. So we have something European. Don't do this. Really make it about what can we learn from it? And it has to be, and it can be something that starts in one country and then grows to many countries. That is also good.
And Ken had both Erica and myself nodding away there, because we were about to jump in and say European added value, and you covered that, Ken. So yeah,
I think we have to mention European added value about 20 times in these webinars. I think we're already there when we say European added value. Okay.
Hello. Sorry, I had a little bit difficult to connect my sound. I work in a foundation that works with a lot of artists and non-profit associations that have artists projects, and we want to have a project that promote artists in different venues that are not in the mainstream. So we want to make a tour, not only in Portugal, we are from Portugal, but only if it's possible to go outside with them. Of course, the problem is to go outside with these artists, we have to have more money. We have a lot of contacts not only inside the country, inside our country with a lot of venues, but also outside our country. But of course, it's easier to work with to make an apply with in a short time and provide the names of these venues. It's easier to work inside the country. That's why I made this question. So thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Shall we open up to the generic questions now for this last 10 minutes, maybe?
Let's
do that.
Yeah, I would like to answer Carla actually, because now when she explains her project, I am afraid it's not really eligible under live music, under the live music venues topic, because it sounded like, maybe I understood wrong, but it sounded like you wanted to make some kind of circuit of touring for the artists that you are managing or working with venues in other European countries. So unless there is some kind of methodology that you are creating or network between these venues that you will be working with, or something that benefits the venues directly, and that could potentially benefit other venues that are not participating during the project implementation, then I don't really see how it fits the call very well. Maybe I misunderstood, but
No, you understood well. But for me, this meeting was quite important because I understood that the principal are not artists, but are the venues. So we have to think how we're going to put how we're going to main this to solve this problem. Okay, but yes, you have you understood well.
Shall we go to the next questions?
Yeah, definitely. If anybody else has any questions, I know Kaz just asked what time is the meeting finishing. We're on the last 10 minutes now and just taking some final questions. So feel free to anybody that has any remaining questions, put their hand up in the chat, and then we'll invite you to unmute.
Okay, can I ask something? Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm working in a pub, and every month we make 2 or 3 show with music, with music alive. We have created a new format for our event, and it's really interesting because the artist request is increasing, and we are sharing this format with the other venues around Europe, and this format allow artists to move around Europe. So my question is, should we focus on the format, or is better to focus on the possibility for artists to move around Europe?
I think you should focus on the format, because it's the format you're developing for music venues, and then the music venue. Otherwise, it's still the artists. So if you say we have a tool that helps music venues book bands, make it better audiences. We have a tool for music venues. I think that's the way.
Okay, it's not really a tool, but a format. So how we can organize the event?
Yes, but that in itself also, like, in a way, it's also a tool, because the way I think if you're going to disseminate this, if you're going to spread this, then you need to have some kind of guidebook. You have to have some instructions how it works. Maybe a costing, a timeline, that kind of thing. So it's kind of a tool that you can use. It's something that you can spread to other countries and they can use to promote new music.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and that is a really key element to it that Ken just added in there. You know, you can't just do it for your venue with no European added value contemplated within that. So really make sure that it's ticking all the boxes when it comes to, you know, the transferability and otherwise.
Okay.
And so one way of doing it would be if you have the existing format, we're going to develop a guideline or a handbook or whatever. We're going to spread that. We're going to also try it in 4 countries, and then we're going to share the key learnings from this experiment and improve the handbook, something like that, a test drive of the project. That's a very good format to really make it, to really bring in the European added value.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And I think the last question was answered in the chat about project duration. So we can move on to Julia.
Hi. Thank you for today. I have a question. The premise is that actually this question sprouts up outside a project that we are currently trying to develop for the music export strand. But since I'm attending also this meeting, I'd like to ask something about that also. I mean, do spaces, I wrote it also in the chat, but like I'm going to read. The spaces that do not usually deal with live music, for example, museums, contemporary art foundation, and but could benefit from the inclusion of concerts in their in their public programs, could also fall under the notion of music venues, and thus could a project that will focus precisely on the valorization of a European network of artists, promoters, and spaces, and so on, not conventionally understood as music venues, benefit like of this in the context of this trend. So like is this the, I would say, the expansion of the notion of music venue in a interdisciplinary direction, also an eligible project, I would say, yeah, an eligible aim. Thank you.
I think that's going to be a hard sell, to be honest, because what the LIVEMX subsidy is trying to do is it's trying to strengthen the European live music venues. And if the project is we give subsidy to museums so they can organize concerts, that's actually not strengthening the live music venues. So the only way I think it could work is if there's also a very clear advantage for existing live music venues. So, for example, smaller live music venues that occasionally want to book a bigger band and they can collaborate with a huge museum where they can do it, something like that, setting up collaborations that have to do with the scaling to new stages, something like that, then it would be interesting to have it. Music venues that have a curfew because of noise regulation that can occasionally just do it somewhere else so they can continue their work, and then it will be interesting. But if it's just about having other kinds of venues and other kinds of spaces put on live shows, I think that's not going to go well with the jury.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Give a little bit of input from like an export perspective. If you were looking at it from an export perspective, that you're an organization that is looking to organize a network in event where your ideas that you're bringing together maybe promoters from different territories, and there's an educational and training format from a music export perspective, then sort of look into that and the videos and the challenges that we've outlined from the music export one.
Yeah.
But it fall under the live venues challenge.
Yeah, that was the strand we are interested in applying. I just wanted to be sure that, I mean, it was the right
If
strand.
you fall under that, you would just need to sort of check the criteria and also check the requirements there. You should have the videos available, and this is a generic message to everybody right now. The videos will be available in the coming days on the website for all of these capacity building sessions. However, you already have the videos from the second open call online if you're all nervous to consult and check out what we've been going through in previous calls. So you do have resources available on the website right now, including a walkthrough of the application process. And yeah, I think we've maybe got time for one last question before I remind everybody. We'll take it from Till, who put his hand up, expert, like speedy straight away. And as a reminder, on Friday we'll be having the digital session. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
For us, it's a little tough because almost every project will have a little digital component when they use whatever technology, right? So for us, it's more important to actually get people in live venues by allowing live venues to have more actual live program. And hence, I'm thinking we could be right in this one here. And one question there would be, as Ken, you mentioned experiments are interesting. So for example, if we put it in a direction, what we are now funding for is our access point devices that we give to actual live venues so they can connect to our service and they can actually have live program on stage without any other cost or resources required. For example, they could have artists from the Ukraine perform there, no matter if it's a DJ or a violinist, all the stuff we have already done. So I'm asking if digital is really the right thing to go just because you're using any form of technology, which will anyway be digital, or is this more a topic? Because I strongly feel we're supporting actual live concerts in the real world and pull people out of their digital isolation to go to live concerts, which has an element of also, you know, mental and societal health and all these good things.
Yeah. I think you could try it both ways, but the easiest one is obviously saying we've developed a technology that allows bands to perform without being present.
Yeah.
And we are now going to see if we can spread this across Europe in any kind of form. That would be digital circulation. I would really advise you to think that. If you say we have a tech solution, but we have a solution to guarantee more people coming to the venue when you put on unknown bands, but then that's a different thing. Then it will be audience development. It could be in the live music venue. So pick your battle, but really stick to we're really solving one problem at a time, because I think that makes your story a lot
understood. Yeah,
you run the risk of coming across really vague, where I feel that your project can be very specific and very, very hands-on for organizations. So make it as specific as possible. And
I think by going in through the digital circulation solution, which is your primary selling point, your primary USP from the project, is gonna help like explain the project a lot clearer when it comes to the application process.
And every story needs an obstacle, and I think you just had a very interesting one where you say we want to use tech to get people away from the internet but into live venues. That's a good selling point, but that's also digital circulation. Digital circulation could also be circulation of bands digitally, but the audience coming together in a venue. That's a really interesting hook to tell your story with. So I would advise you to keep.
That's our vision. So totally. Thank you very much, Ken. And thanks, Grace. That was very helpful.
Super. Well, you've just read my mind there, Till, because I was just about to thank everybody else for joining the session. Unfortunately, time's up. I'm sure we could carry on with our Q&A for a lot longer. I know you've all got lots of burning questions still. So I did put in the chat, we do have an email address that you can reach out to. So it's general@livemx.eu if you have any remaining questions after this session. We look forward to receiving lots of applications before the 6th of January. Just a quick reminder of the deadline there to you all. And yeah, please use all the information that we've provided to you when it comes to videos, abstracts from projects that have been selected. I really think that's the best tools that you can have moving forward when it comes to crafting your application. So a big thank you to Ken and to my colleagues Erica and Patricia for being in the session, and to you all for your questions. It's been a great session.